Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us at the Brooklyn Tea Party July 24th meeting. We thank you all for joining us today. Before we start, I just wanted to give a little quick background about our guest speaker. Our guest speaker is Joe Fox, Chief Joe Fox, who is the Chief of Brooklyn Borough South, right? From what year did that start, Joe?
May of 2000 to August of 2011.
Okay, August 2011, so 11 years of doing that.
11 years and 4 months.
And then from there, he became the chief of the transit division from 2011 to 2018, and then you retired in 2018? You got it the heck out of there just in time. So he's given well over what, 40-something years of service?
Well, 37 sworn. 1 year as a traffic agent, so that's 38. I get out and tell the traffic agents that all the time. And I count the last 4 years.
Yes, so over 40 years of service to our city, and we thank him for that. And I met Joe sometime in 2000, I would say, maybe around 2000, 2001, I think this picture is from. This is me and Joe Fox.
Oh,
I'm an auxiliary police sergeant, still at the 66th precinct for 27 years myself.
All right.
Campus police sergeant at the Brooklyn College for 20 years in September. So this is Chief Joe Fox, me, our coordinator at the time, Tommy Decio, and I forgot his name was.
Bob Thurston.
Thurston.
He retired as an inspector.
Inspector Thurston. He was the captain of the precinct at the time. So that was a little picture there. So before I ramble on any further, I would like to introduce our wonderful host of this space, Heshi Tischler. Ladies and gentlemen. A couple words before we introduce our guest speaker.
I want you to know this holy, good man who served our community, who put his life on the line, who we did not appreciate. I'm not saying you, I was one of those guys who gave you a hard time. I'm sorry. But I have to do that. I want to tell you a story. I volunteer in the hospital every day. Every morning I go there from 6 to 9 or 8, and I go around visiting people. Some of them get better, some of them don't. And I hear their stories, but they don't want to tell me sometimes the same thing over and over and over again, every day what they do, what they're going through. I met about 2 years ago, and I might have told some of you, a beautiful, gorgeous girl, gorgeous, beautiful. Inside and out, she was just so delicious you wanted to eat her. And every day I used to go to her. Now I try to make the people laugh. I tell them stories and I complain. My wife is no good. She takes all my money, bad cook, please don't repeat that. I tell her about my foot, the kids, the grandchildren, everything, and I make them laugh. And every day I went to this girl, Leah, and every day Leah used to give me advice. Hey, she this, don't worry that they talk bad about you. Don't worry that they embarrass you. And she says to me, I'm going to dance at your one you ever win the election, which I never will win, but if I ever win, she said she's going to dance. But she said she won't dance here with me. She'll dance in heaven. I'm talking about you're going to come. About 3 months, a little bit more than 3 months ago, she died. Since my father passed away, I was 13 years old in a month when he died. It was a sad day for me, and I raised my brothers, my sister, and many other people that come to my house. Leah made me sad. She was delicious. She was sick and dying, and she still every morning woke up when I bothered her, made her miserable, and gave me advice. Me! She didn't have to do that. And this is who this man is. Every day we torture him. Every day we pressured him for 37 years. And he got up with a smile. He came to help us. He came to protect us. These are the angels that when we stand before the heavenly court, pray to God to look and say, look, maybe we can be something like him. My dear Chief, may God bless every moment that you're with us. Thank you for being in our presence. And thank you for coming here today to speak to these beautiful people, because we love you. God bless you, and God bless America.
Thank you very much. One just quick note, you basically reminded me when you talked about the sad passing of your friend. Today we are sad to announce the passing of former head of the Conservative Party of New York State, Michael Long, who passed away today at the age. He passed away today.
Yeah,
At age 82, he had kidney problems. He passed away from very sudden, because if you looked on his Facebook page, he posted something on July 4th, so you think, oh, everything. But he sadly left us and will be defending us in heaven, looking down on us. So I met Mr. Long years ago when I was president of the Brooklyn Young Republican Club, and nothing more than a gentleman. So we send his family heartfelt condolences and wish him well and great beyond. With that being said, I want to give a round of applause to our guest speaker, Joe Fox.
Thank you, everyone. What a warm place with such wonderful people. And you know, this is one of the things I've loved most about wearing a uniform and going to all the community events, with being with people in gatherings like this. And that brought me home late many nights. Thank you for doing this at a daytime. You know, this photo, you see. So this photo, obviously all these years, 37 years NYPD, 37 and a half years, 20 years as a chief, I was very lucky. So there's a lot of photos. But this one's very special because it's my first. I was here for 11 and a half years in Brooklyn South. I have the record for the longest sitting borough commander. I don't know how it happened, but it did. It's not something you train for, it just happened. Basically, it means I didn't get promoted to 3-star for a long time. And it's funny, there'd be an opening for a 3-star spot, and a couple of my colleagues would call up and say, "That's terrible, they didn't give it to you." And I'd say, "Oh, yeah, yeah." And I'd hang up, thank God I didn't. Because I loved what I was doing out here. And then I loved when I became the chief of transit. But this photo was my first medal day. And it was the 6-6 precinct, it was in the front. It was a day like this, it was very hot. And they had, you know, the whole street is blocked off, and I was there, and Chief Esposito came, and precinct commander. And there's something I shared in my remarks, that there's a photo, I still have it, it's in a folder. And frankly, it's in a folder of things that I said throughout the years. I'd like this to be on display in my funeral because it captures the essence of who I was. And this photo is there from this day, not this particular one. And I'm at the podium, and I told the story. Now I'm a brand new chief. And I told the story about when I was a young boy, about 6 years old, how my Uncle Eddie would always say to me, my mother's brother, at family gatherings would say to me, "Where does your daddy work?" And I would say, "My daddy don't work, he's a cop." And everybody would laugh, and I didn't know why people laughed. But he would do this repeatedly. So in that photo that I speak of, you could see this face I have, because I was almost surprised by how much the crowd laughed at me. And it's really, with all modesty, it's a very warm, happy smile. And it really captures what I felt all these years. And the reason I brought this up in this speech was because I said that I finally realized why I said that as a little boy. This is what I told all these cops. That from my perspective, as a young, 6-year-old, my father didn't do what everybody else did. Because he was home when they were at work, he was at work when they were home. He had an 8th grade education, neighbors came to him for everything. If they had a car accident, they came to Walker Fox. If their son they thought was using drugs, they came to him. If they were having disputes with a neighbor, they came to him. And I think in my mind, that was not work. This was just a special calling this man had. And I think that motivated me to become a police officer. That was the moment. Yeah, so you really brought a lot of, I should give you a co-payment. This was and I'm going to go leave that picture up, and thank you for your service.
Yes.
Because Clint, I was on the beach yesterday. A friend of mine is an executive at a pharmaceutical company. He's got about 23 years. I think he's going to retire in 5. And he leaned into me and he said, what I'm really excited about, he said, I'd love to know what you think of this. I'd like to become an auxiliary. NYPD.
Nice.
I said, that's wonderful. I said, I love auxiliaries. Cops love auxiliaries. People love auxiliaries. And I said, why wait 5 years? I said, I can connect you with the coordinator in the precinct now and sit with you, explain with you, and I may connect them with you at some point. So thank you for your service. And then I used to say, and I began by saying how much I love being in gatherings like this. It sounds like a cliche, but it's not. But without the people in this room, we'd be like one hand clapping. And I always knew that. And I think if there was any success I may have had with the community, it was with the community. It was knowing that. It was knowing that we cannot police in a vacuum, and we could be the brain, the smartest police executive in history. We could come up with every strategy that proves to reduce crime. We could put every prisoner away, and we're still not going to be successful if we don't bring people on a journey with us.
That's
and
right.
if we don't let people realize that what their concerns are, it matters. So speaking of matters, let's fast forward here. So I got to tell you, in 2020, now I'm going to give you. So when I go, I'm a life coach. I'm an executive leadership coach. I do a lot of things like that. So I'm constantly. Wellness is a big deal to me. Taking care of ourselves. So I go to every single doctor I can for everything I can. And I go when I'm well. And when I wake up from whatever procedure they give to me, I'm still groggy from the anesthesia. I say, when can I come back? When will insurance allow? And it's right in my calendar. When's my next endoscopy? When's my next colonoscopy? When's my next this? The dermatologist. When can I come back? Urologist. When can I come back? I do all of these things. So when I get these procedures, these surgical procedures, I always turn to the anesthesiologist. And I say, thank you, you're the most important person in this room.
That's right.
Now, I'm not a doctor, and I don't play one any place, but he's probably not the most important person in that room, in that procedure, obviously. But one thing I can tell you is that in civilization, the most important thing we have is public safety. That's a true statement. That's not a joke. The most important thing we have is public safety, because we don't have freedom without public safety.
That's right.
We can't do this together. We can't walk the streets together. And our public safety is under attack now.
Yes.
In ways that I'm 65 years old. I've never seen and I've never heard of. And it's I'm gonna sprinkle through here, and I'm gonna end with, there's hope. The fact that we're here is hope. Please remember that. So if I start getting so dark that you say, oh my God, I don't want to listen to this man, I was having a better day before. There's hope. The fact that we're talking about this is hope. Do we remember in I think it was May when George Floyd died in Minneapolis? And do you remember there was a 2 or 3 week period where we felt like we couldn't even speak about it?
That's right.
I felt that way. Because the worst case scenario, we were branded as insensitive. Like if we said things like, well, wait a minute, when I say speak about it, wait a minute, we're blaming all of American policing on these three or four cops that did something horrific. We're blaming the NYPD on something that happened in Minneapolis. We're blaming police officers everywhere, police officers on campus, anything. Wait a minute, we're blaming authority? We're blaming colleges, we're blaming companies because of this one incident. What's wrong? But we couldn't say that. And if we did, we spoke like this, and we looked around, like a couple of drug dealers. And then we started to have the pro-police, which is really pro-civilization rallies. I remember that was a couple of weeks. And I was at each one as well. And I stood sometimes in the back of pickup trucks. And I got up there and I said, we have to stand up. We have to speak out. And then, message of hope, I would say, people will stand up. candidates will stand up. And that's what this is tonight. That's what you're doing. So if any family member says, Sunday, a nice Sunday, the middle of the day, it's just hot weather, you get dressed up and went out, well, why? Because this is important. Because this is the stuff we called for at the rallies back in 2020. This is the stuff we hoped for. And we said, isn't anybody listening to us? This is why this is important and why we're here. And as candidates, and I got to help a number of them. You know, I've done these videos with them and endorsements and they're you know, instead of just law and order, pro-civilization, pro-public safety. And they're stepping up. And we have to support them. Because voting is not, it's not only a right, it's an obligation.
Yes.
And we have to remember that, it's an obligation. This guy in Manhattan, Alvin Bragg,
Oh, God.
let's remember, you know, he wasn't appointed by a governor or a president. He wasn't designated, he was elected. You know, people voted for him, and he's not a liar. You know, he didn't hide his intentions when he ran. He was elected. De Blasio was elected a second term. Did we need 5 years to know how bad he was? How arrogant? But yet we just stepped back and let the political machine go. This is a political machine. You have to become the political machine. So we have to recognize that we have more power and everything. So a little bit back on just like policing. So everyone, you know, you have more of an eye for it as an auxiliary, but most people go by, and even if I may, the people in this room, you go by what you read as far as public safety. Okay, so shootings are up, that's big. But then at some level you say, well, I don't hear shots in my neighborhood, oh, okay, but it's really bad. Okay, homicides are up. Well, you know, sometimes it's drug dealers, sometimes it's this, but it's bad. But it's not just that. It's not just that. I see cars speeding.
That's right.
These loud mufflers. So what does that have to do with the leniency that happened in 2020? When government comes out, when supposed government leaders come out and say laws are not important, then everybody hears that message, and it's a signal to everyone that standards are not important, that decency is not important, that respect is not important. And that's why we have people running from highway cops. I mean, the most feared cops when you drive in the NYPD is a highway cop. Yet there's people running from them. There's this kind of audacity, this revolting that's happening. Litter, graffiti. These are big indicators that you're not going to read in any of these articles. So the thing is, what I saw happen in the 80s and the 90s, in the mid-90s when it started to turn around, it was very simple. It was policing worked in tandem with the rest of government, and the rest of government worked with policing. Legislatures, people who make laws, mayors, and people who enforce laws, prosecutors, and everybody's on the same page. And bingo, what do we have? More public safety. Now it's not happening. We cannot do this alone. NYPD, the good news here is society can appear, parts of society can appear to abandon the NYPD. They will never abandon us. I'm very active on profiling on social media. I'm regularly speaking to, it begins with the adult. My son wants to become a cop, would you talk to me? He'd just like to know where he may want to work or what he needs to do. And then I speak with the young boy or gal. And I'm speaking with these young people that, now you'll ask someone like me, my counterparts will say, what are they, crazy? Well, there's no support, they want to do it. They want to do it because in spite of all of that, in spite of all the vilification, they want to protect us. Yes. So always remember that. But what's happening now, I think what makes this so frightening for us is that in the 80s and 90s, crack epidemic, crime up, really bad. There was always like this presumption that government was behind us.
Right.
Now, we know that government did this.
Yes.
Yeah. And when I say government, I mean people in elected offices, people in positions of responsibility and authority did this. They passed legislation that did this. They softened up, they decriminalized many crimes and criminalized